Hare Krishna, good morning. Mukam karoti vachanam pankum lankayati krim yat kripa tatam bande shigom dinotaranam amahyana timandasya jnana shaka sekshan militam yena tasmai shigove nama Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namne Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pacharani Nirvashesha Sunyavadi Paskatyani Desatarani. So this morning we, Sutta Goswami will start at the beginning of the 17th chapter. For the third time, the story of Maharaj Pariksit, history of Maharaj Pariksit, and his meeting with Kali. So chapter 17, punishment and reward of Kali. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Sutta Uvacha Tatveko Mitunam Raja Anyaman Anatavat Dandahastam Savisalam Tatvishenipalanshanam. Sutta Goswami said, after reaching that place, Maharaj Pariksit observed that the lower caste Sudra, dressed like a king, was beating a cow and a bull with a club, if they had no owner. The bull was as white lotus flower. He was terrified of the Sudra who was beating him, and he was so afraid that he was standing on one leg, trembling and urinating. Although the cow is beneficial because one can draw religious principles from her, she was now rendered poor and calfless. Her legs were being beaten by Sudra. There were tears in her eyes, and she was distressed and weak. She was hankering after some grass in the field. So, how will Maharaj Pariksit deal with this? This chapter will give us a deeper insight into the consciousness of a pure devotee. That by studying Maharaj Pariksit consciousness, we can understand what a pure devotee means and how to come to that state. How is it different from our consciousness? What are the obstacles for us to attain this higher consciousness? What are the inner attitudes, what we are missing, and what Maharaj Pariksit has? These are important questions we can consider when we go to this chapter. And please, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Preferably questions that helps us to make spiritual advancement. So we will read the first lines of the first purport. The principal sign of the age of Kali is that lower caste Sudras, this means man without brahminical culture and spiritual initiation, which will be dressed like administrators or kings. And the principal business of such non-Kshatriya rulers will be to kill the innocent animals first business. Kill the cow and exploit. In the Christian Bible, in Genesis, it is said that God gives dominion to man over all animals and all creatures. So the Christians say, oh, God gave us dominion over all the animals. But if you have dominion or control over someone, does that mean that you can just kill them? The head of the family has dominion over all the members of the family. Does that mean that you can kill them and eat them? That because just someone has dominion or control over power over them? This is the wrong use of power, especially by the Vaishyas, the mercantile community. They should protect the cow and animals. So that's the first symptom of bad rulers, lower class people that take that role and oppose their characteristics, and it causes havoc. And when they have proved being low class, then they throw them out of office. Srila Prabhupada spoke about it so many times. Srila Prabhupada was in America when President Nixon was kicked out of office. That his comment was that it was the citizens' fault because they have elected him. They are rascals because they have elected their dogs, he said. And then they are not satisfied, they kick him out. But no training to be a king. So I don't know, for example, you have ever been to the Jaipur fort, the big one is said, the city palace. They have still the clothes of a king, a Jaipur king, less than 100 years ago. He was 7'4", it's 2 meters, 25 centimeters. He was powerful, and they would kill you, anyway, every day he would go out and fight. He would practice fighting before eating anything. He was a great warrior. One would literally look up to him. That were warriors. But low-class people, no character, they are elected just by vote, by promising the citizens anything. So, and the next sixth symptom, Srila Prabhupada explains in the second part of the purport, that so the next symptom of the age of Kali, that just I have to get it here from the purport. That's text 2. The next symptom of the age of Kali is that principles of religion, which are all spotlessly white, like the white lotus flower, will be attacked by the uncultured man, by the uncultured Sudra population of the age. That they may be descendants of Brahmins or Kshatriya forefathers, but in the age of Kali, for want of sufficient education and culture of Vedic wisdom, such Sudra-like population will divide the principles of religion, and persons who are religiously endowed will be terrified by such men. So first, there's bad administration. Low-class people that without Kshatriya qualities. What are the Kshatriya qualities? That Saumyam, heroism, Teja, power, Triti, determination, Daksham, resourcefulness, expert in battle, Yude apalayam, not fleeing, Dhanam, generosity, Ishvar, leadership and charisma, Teyatamut, Ishvarabhav, I'm the controller. But yes, it says in the purport here, they will declare themselves as adherents of no religious principles and many ism. And cults will spring up in Kali Yuga only to kill the spotless bull of religion. So do what you want, that's the point. It doesn't make any difference. It's illusion, or anyway, they make their own religion without God. So there's no question of surrender. That said in the purport, the state will be declared to be secular or without any principle of religion. And as a result, there will be total indifference to the principles of religion. That the citizens will be free to act as they like without respect for sadhu, sastra, and guru. The bull standing on one leg indicates that the principles of religion are gradually diminishing. Even the fragmental existence of religious principles will be embarrassed by so many obstacles, as if in the trembling condition of falling down at any time. So the state will be declared secular. Secular state means that the government doesn't control religion. But there are two ways to do that. One can have a secular state and say, yes, everyone must be religious and follow religion, but we will not say what religion you must follow. But everyone must be religious. But instead of acting in that way, the state moves completely back from religion and says that you don't need to follow a religion. And therefore everyone, because everyone is lawless, godless. And what is the result? First, there is bad administration, low-class people. Second, that there are no religious principles followed anymore. It's just everyone is doing what they want. Just do what feels good. And the third symptom is killing the cows. So I read from the second half from the purport of text 3. The cow's calf not only is beautiful to look at, but also gives satisfaction to the cow. And so she delivers milk, as much as milk as possible. But in Kali Yuga, the cows are separated from the cows as early as possible for purposes which may not be mentioned in these pages of Srimad Bhagavatam. The cow stands with tears in her eyes. The Sudra milkman draws milk from the cow artificially, and when there is no milk, the cow is sent to be slaughtered. So these are, yes, to be slaughtered. So in this age, everything can be justified just by economics. So further, these great sinful acts are responsible for all the troubles in society. People do not know what they are doing in the name of economic development. The influence of Kali will keep them in the darkness of ignorance. Despite all endeavors for peace and prosperity, they must try to see the cows and the bulls happy in all respect. Foolish people, they do not know how one earns happiness by making the cow and bulls happy. But it is a fact by the law of nature. Let us take it from the authority of Srimad Bhagavatam and adopt the principles for the total happiness of humanity. So if we take care of the cow and the bulls, then automatically there is peace and happiness in society. Why does it make individuals happy when they take care of the cows and the bulls? Because it pleases Krishna, that is why. And the whole lifestyle is based around that. Even if people are materialistic, the Varnashram system is meant to please Krishna. If one looks at the cow and thinks of injuring such a harmless, innocent creature, it is inconceivable unless one's heart is as hard as a rock. So what is the condition of the hearts of the people? The consciousness. So we are comparing here. We will see the consciousness of Maharaj Pariksit and his heart, and then the condition of the heart of the people in this age. No wonder there is violence and war, because the people's heart is so hard. So Maharaj Pariksit, he as the king, he has seen this. Text 4. Maharaj Pariksit, well equipped with arrows and bow, and seated on a gold-embossed chariot, spoke to him, the Sudra, with a deep voice sounding like thunder. Who are you? You appear to be strong, and yet you dare kill within my protection those who are helpless. By your dress, you pose yourself to be a godly man, a king, but by your deeds you are opposing the principles of the twice-born Kshatriyas. You roar, do you dare beat an innocent cow because Lord Krishna and Arjuna, the carrier of the Gandiva bow, are out of sight? Since you are beating the innocents in a secluded place, you are considered a culprit, and therefore deserve to be killed. How would people be peaceful and feel protected if there would be a Kshatriya king like this? No big trials costing millions of dollars. No clever lawyers would twist the law and free it on the basis of, and try to free their client on the basis of some technicalities. The business of a lawyer is to to make something that is illegal and make it legal. A lawyer, he looks for the mistakes that the prosecutor has made in the trial, and as such, you have the thing thrown out. It cost millions of dollars. Now it breaks it is seeing this man killing an innocent creature. A public is going to take out his sword and kill him. Purport 6. In a civilization where God is conspicuously banished and there is no devotee warrior like Arjuna, the associates of the age of Kali take advantage of this lawless kingdom and arrange to kill innocent animals like the cow in secluded slaughterhouses. Such murderers of animals stand to be condemned to death by the order of the pious king, like Maharaj Pariksit. For a pious king, the culprit who kills an animal in a secluded place is punishable. That is punishable by the death penalty, exactly like a murderer who kills an innocent child in a secluded place. So the cows are killed, and we see they are crying and crying. And that is why they need to keep them in a place far away from town. The slaughterhouses, the smell is horrible and no one can tolerate it. They want to eat the meat because they like it, but they don't want even to think about this because they feel horrible, especially children. It is unnatural for them. They will never eat meat. Where did the meat came from? Such murders of animals. Srila Prabhupada would make that strong point referring to the Bible. Thou shalt not kill. So if you do not follow this, Srila Prabhupada said, you are not a Christian. You are not following the Bible. In the current Bible, they write, thou shalt not murder. They made a distinction between killing and murder, the latter referring only to a human. They say, we have abortion, so we are not killing anyone. So murders of animals. Now in text 7 to 16, Maharaj Pariksit is going to speak to the bull. Here, text 7 says, then he, Maharaj Pariksit, asked the bull, who are you? You are a bull as white as a white lotus, or are you a demigod? You have lost 3 legs of your legs and are moving on 1 leg only. Are you some demigod causing a shriek in the form of a bull? So it caused so much pain to Maharaj Pariksit to see this. And this is happening in his kingdom. Text 8. Now for the first time in a kingdom well protected by the arms of the kings of the Kuru dynasty, I see you grieving with tears in your eyes. Up till now, no one on the earth has ever shed tears because of such royal negligence. O son of Surabhi, you need lament no longer. There is no need to fear this lower class Sudra. And the mother cow, as long as I am living as the ruler, and subduer of all envious men. There is no cause for you to cry. Everything will be good for you. So, in the second half of the purport, Srila Prabhupada he used the term envious of the animals. So they are envious. They cannot accept that animals have also a right to live, a right to life. Animals have a right to live. Refusing to accept that is envy, hatred, and envy. So in the second part of the purport of text 9, Srila Prabhupada explains why the cow is so important. That in the material world, the human society gives all protection to the human being. But there is no law to protect the descendants of Surabhi. One can give all protection to man by supplying the miracle food, milk. But Maharaj Pariksit and the Pandavas were fully conscious of the importance of the cow and the bull, and they prepared to punish the cow killer with all chastisement, including death. There has sometimes been agitation for the protection of the cow, but for want of pious executive heads and suitable laws, the cow and the bull are not given protection. The human society should recognize the importance of the cow and the bull and thus give all protection to these important animals, following in the footsteps of Maharaj Pariksit. For protecting the cows and Brahminical culture, the Lord, who is very kind to the cow and the Brahmins, Ko Brahmanahitaya, will be pleased with us and bestow upon us real peace. So this is the answer. Krishna will be pleased by this. So Srila Prabhupada felt very strongly about this. In one of his ISKCON farms in the 1970s, during one winter when the cows could not go to the pastures, some of them died, and Srila Prabhupada was so furious. Text 10:11. O chaste one, the king's good name, duration of life, and good rebirth vanish when all kinds of living beings are terrified by miscreants in his kingdom. It is certainly the prime duty of the king to subdue first the sufferings of those who suffer. Therefore, I must kill this most wretched man because he is violent against other living beings. So that is the first duty of a king, that the innocent, that they should not suffer. To protect the innocents and to chastise those who give them trouble, that Srila Sridhar Swami, to those who give trouble to the Praja, to all the elders. Srila Sridhar Swami comments, one must kill the culprit for his own benefit, because there is so much suffering awaiting him. Maharaj Pariksit explains that the whole reputation of my dynasty is going to be destroyed. So we will read Srila Prabhupada from the second paragraph. Any living being, if he terrifies other living beings, is a most wretched subject. And the king should at once kill such a disturbing element. As a wild animal is killed when it creates disturbances, similarly any man who unnecessarily kills or terrifies the jungle animals or other animals must be punished at once. That by the law of the Supreme Lord, all living beings, in whatever shape they may be, are the sons of the Lord. and no one has the right to kill another animal unless it is ordered by the codes of natural law. The tiger can kill a lower animal for his subsistence, but a man cannot kill an animal for his subsistence. That is the law of God, who has created the law that a living being subsists, that one living being subsists by eating another living being. Thus, the vegetarians are also living by eating other living beings. Therefore, the law is that one should live only by eating specific living beings as ordained by the law of God. The Ishopanishad directs that one should live by the direction of the Lord, and not at one's sweet will. A man can subsist on varieties of grains, fruits, and milk ordained by God. There is no need of animal food, save and except in particular cases. Then further down in the third paragraph, we have in our presence the statement of great modern politicians who recently died and left this will, which discloses this profound of knowledge of the codes of God mentioned by Maharaj Pariksit. The politician was so ignorant of the codes of God that he writes, I do not believe in any such ceremonies, and to submit to them, even as a matter of form, would be hypocrisy and an attempt to delude ourselves and others. I have no religious sentiments in this matter. Then further contrasting these statements of a great politician in modern age with those of Maharaj Pariksit, we find a vast difference. Maharaj Pariksit was pious according to the scriptural codes, whereas the modern politician goes by his personal belief and sentiments. So, do we become older by our own will? What is enforcing us to die? Who is in control? So is said further. The conclusion is that people in the time of Maharaj Pariksit, they were happy, and the animals were given proper protection because the executive head was not whimsical or ignorant of God's laws. Foolish, faithless creatures try to avoid the existence of God and proclaim themselves secular at the cost of valuable human life. The human life is especially meant for knowing the signs of God. But foolish creatures, especially in this age of Kali, instead of knowing God scientifically, make propaganda against religious belief, as well as the existence of God, even though they are always bound by the laws of God, by the symbols of birth, death, old age, and disease. So it's no wonder that leaders were atheistic, nasty, and whimsical, that young people are growing up, and by the time they are in their 20s, that they are mentally and emotionally disturbed. No wonder that the state is being run by people who don't know what they are doing, and yet they are very proud. So now Maharaj speaks to the bull and is repeatedly questioning them. He will ask, who has cut your 3 legs? Text 12. He, Maharaj Pariksit, repeatedly addressed and questioned the bull, O son of Surabi, who has cut off your 3 legs? In the state of the kings who are obedient to the laws of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, there is no one as unhappy as you. O bull, you are offenseless and totally honest. Therefore, I wish all good to you. Please tell me of the perpetrator of these mutilations, which blackmail the reputation of the sons of Pritha. Whoever causes living beings to suffer must fear me anywhere and everywhere in the world. By curbing dishonest miscreants, one automatically benefits the offenseless. So Maharaj Pariksit is asking, who has done this with the perpetrator? And now from the answer of the bull, we will hear, we will hear something very important, which makes the difference between the consciousness of a materialistic man and the consciousness of a devotee. But first, we have a comment of Sridhar Swami. Maharaj Pariksit was ready to kill the miscreant for his own benefit. The king then wanted to know the identity of the perpetrator of these horrible deeds. So text 14 answers the question, what good will occur if the bull informs Maharaj Pariksit of the name of the culprit? Factually, the answer is in text 14. We will read the purport to this text 14. Dishonest miscreants flourish because of cowardly and impotent executive heads of state. But when the executive heads are strong enough to curb all sorts of dishonest miscreants in any part of the state, certainly they cannot flourish. When the miscreants are punished in an exemplary manner, automatically all good fortune follows. Srila Prabhupada says that in Kashmir, and that is about 80 years ago, the king was so strong, if someone would steal, then the punishment would be very strict. According to the Brahma Samhita, so strict, if someone drops something, let's say his wallet or something, no one would even touch it. No one would even touch it. You were a criminal when you touched it. And then someone would realize, I lost this, and he would find it exactly where he dropped it. So Srila Prabhupada said, we lock up things to keep people away from stealing, but he said it's not to keep people from stealing that we lock up things, but to keep the honest people honest. That's an interesting expression of Srila Prabhupada. So if there is strict punishment, then thieves will be punished. After you lose on one hand, you can steal with the other hand, but you must refrain. You must refrain of doing it. But the honest people, they will see, oh, he has been punished. He has lost his hand. I don't want this to happen to me. And they remain honest. That in the purpose such as automatically there will be peaceful, offenseless citizens. Then the only duty of the king will be to curb dishonest miscreants. That will bring about peace, harmony all over the human society. Text 17. An upstart living being who commits offenses by torturing those who are offenseless shall be directly uprooted by me, even though he be a denizen of heaven with armor and decorations. Sridhar Swami comments, such offensive persons should be cut at the root, completely cut off for committing a crime like this. Do not think, Maharaj Pariksit said, that I am unable to inflict such punishment upon Kali. Text 16. The supreme duty of the ruling king is to give protection to law-abiding persons and to chastise those who stray from the ordinances of the scriptures in ordinary times, when there is no emergency. So Maharaj Pariksit is explaining the characteristics and the duties of an executive head. Now the bull Dharma is going to reply. Maharaj Pariksit asked him, who has done this to you? And now he will reply the bull Dharma in 4 verses. That's text 17. The personality of religion said, these words just spoken by you befit a person of the Pandava dynasty, captivated by the devotional quality of the Pandavas. Even Lord Krishna, the personality of God, that performed duties as a messenger. So Kali was just in front of Maharaj Pariksit. He was beating this cow, and Maharaj Pariksit saw this. And yet the bull is answering in this way. It's very difficult to ascertain. Understand who is inflicting the suffering upon me. He says, the bull says it's very difficult to understand that says, the greatest among human beings, it's very difficult to ascertain the particular miscreant will cause our suffering, because we are bewildered by all the different opinions of theoretical philosophers. So Kali was in front of Maharaj Pariksit while this conversation is going on. And Bull replies, there are so many opinions of what is the cause. So many opinions. And who actually is doing it. I'm bewildered, the Bull says. I don't know what's the cause. In the next 2 verses, he explains some different opinions as who could have done this? Who could be the doers? Text 19. Some of the philosophers who deny all sorts of duality declare that one's own self is responsible for his personal happiness and distress. So that's one kind of philosopher. And then he says, others say that superhuman powers are responsible, while others say that the activity is responsible, and the gross materialists maintain that nature is the ultimate cause. So the first thing he says, yourself is responsible. Today everyone says this. You have to take responsibility for yourself. Take control of your life. And if you don't take responsibility for your life, then suffer. That's one of the philosophies today. A second point the bull makes, superhuman powers are responsible. It's the gods. It's out of our control. Then the bull says, but others say that the activity is responsible. So it's your karma. It are just reactions. And then he made a fourth point. That's a point made by the gross materialist. This is how material nature works. What can we do? But in text 20, he will give more reasons. Fifth reason. There are also thinkers who believe that no one can ascertain the cause of distress by argumentation, nor know it by imagination, nor express it by words. O sage among kings, judge for yourself by thinking over all this with your intelligence. So no one can ascertain the cause. Is it a stick that is beating me? Or is it a person that is holding the stick? Or is it a person's mother who beat him when he was young? And by that he got some trauma in his consciousness? Or is it a father who abused his mother? Who can say? In this way, everyone in the world is bewildered. We will read a little from the purport, because you may remember that Bhishmadev also spoke about this in relationship to the Pandavas. Because Maharaj Yudhishthira felt terrible. He said, look what I have caused. Thus Bhishmadev spoke at this also very strongly. But Srila Prabhupada, in the purport, he explains in the purport that text 20, let's see, we find the exact quote. Text 20, just a moment, that I'm trying to find the passage. Yeah, it's near to the end. Bhishmadev correctly estimated the inconceivable actions of the Lord. The conclusion is therefore that the suffering of the representative of religion and the representative of the earth, as present before Maharaj Parikshit, were planned to prove to Maharaj Parikshit that Maharaj Parikshit was the ideal executive head, because he knew well how to give protection to the cows, to the earth, and to the Brahmins, to the religious principles, the two pillars of spiritual advancement. Everyone is under the full control of the Lord. He is quite correct in his action when he desires something to be done by someone, irrespective of the consideration of the particular case. Maharaj Parikshit was thus put to test for his greatness. Now let us see how he solves it by a sage's mind. So Bhishmadev also spoke about that. So when we see others suffering, then we may doubt the correctness of that action. But when we consider the ultimate doer, who is the ultimate doer, then we should have no doubt, because he is quite correct. We will continue with text 21. Sutta Goswami said, O best among Brahmins, the Emperor Parikshit, thus hearing the personality of religion speak, was fully satisfied and without mistake or regret. He gave his reply. Text 22, the king said, O you are in the form of a bull. You know the truth of religion, and you are speaking according to the principles that the destination intended for the perpetrator of irreligious acts is also intended for one who identifies the perpetrator. You are no other than the personality of religion. So, in the purport, a devotee's conclusion is that no one is directly responsible for being a benefactor or mischief monger without the sanction of the Lord. Further, Srila Prabhupada writes, Jesus Christ was seemingly put into such great difficulty, being crucified by the ignorant. So Jesus Christ was crucified. Srila Prabhupada spoke on this topic. So Srila Prabhupada would say, thou shalt not kill the Christians. The 5th commandment says of the Christian. And the first person they killed was him, Jesus Christ. And in such a horrible way they crucified him. Sometimes we think very romantically about surrender. And how wonderful is that I surrender to Krishna, and then we get roses with no thorns, only rose petals. Or each and every one of Jesus' direct followers were crucified in one way or another. To surrender to Krishna means putting yourself in his hands, Srila Prabhupada says in a lecture. Seeing everything as his kindness. As his kindness, benediction and mercy. Are we ready for that? Everyone must answer this for themselves. It means to place oneself in Krishna's hands. It does not only offer us as mercy, garlands, and Mahaprasad. It's extremely heavy. And Srila Prabhupada said, and Jesus, he did not become angry, for they do not know what they do. Jesus said, that's the way of accepting a thing, either favorable or unfavorable, as Krishna's mercy. So Srila Prabhupada, the purport writes, text 22. So that is the way of accepting a thing. And that's an important point here. That is the way of accepting a thing, either favorable or unfavorable. Thus for a devotee, the identifier is equally a sinner. I'm repeating this. This is very important. For a devotee, the identifier is equally a sinner, like the mischief monger. That means that the person is equally in ignorance. The one who benefits us and the one who gives us pain are equally in ignorance. Continues. By God's grace, the devotee tolerates all reverses. So one needs to have a broad vision of what one's existence is. One needs to see oneself as an eternal servant of Krishna. A good thing and a bad thing comes in that perspective as well. For a devotee, a so-called good or bad thing, everything is considered to be auspicious. Therefore, it is not cheap to be a devotee. He is so dear to Krishna because he is a devotee, not that Krishna slaps and then I'm not a devotee anymore. Devotee means devotion. Devotion means continuous. It has to spring from the heart. So by God's grace, the devotee tolerates all reverses. Maharaj Pariksit observed this, and therefore he could understand that the bull was no other than the personality of religion himself. In other words, the devotee has no suffering because all this so-called suffering is also God's grace for a devotee who sees God in everything. So he sees God in everything. So what was the example we have seen before in the chapter on Bhishmadev? Bhishmadev was shooting arrows and Krishna was accepting them. And he was bleeding just to reciprocate with Bhishmadev's affection. Devotional service is astounding, it's deep, it is wonderful. It is so durlabha. High devotional service is rare. So, the cow and the bull are never placed any complaint before the king for being tortured by the personality of Kali. Only everyone lodged such complaints before the state authority. The extraordinary behavior of the bull made the king conclude that the bull was certainly the personality of religion, for no one else could understand the finer intricacies of the codes of religion. So text 23. Thus it is concluded that the Lord's energies are inconceivable. No one can estimate them by mental speculation or by word jugglery. In the purport, a question may be raised as to why a devotee should refrain from identifying an actor, although he knows definitely that the Lord is the ultimate doer of everything. Knowing the ultimate doer, one should not pose himself as ignorant as the actual performer. So Srila Prabhupada says, why then didn't the bull say, Krishna did it? Okay, I cannot identify the ultimate performer, but Krishna is behind everything. So further we can see in the purport that to answer this doubt, the reply is that the Lord is also not directly responsible, for everything is done by the deputed Maya Sakti or material energy. So there is an intermix here. There is an intermix with our karma and Krishna's will. Both are there. But here is another answer. The material energy is always provoking doubts about the supreme authority of the Lord. So we think, is Krishna really behind this? That it says further, the personality of religion knew perfectly well that nothing can take place without the sanction of the Lord, and still he was put into doubt by the deluding energy, and thus he refrained from mentioning the supreme cause. This doubtfulness was due to the contamination of both Kali and the material energy. The whole atmosphere of the age of Kali is magnified by the deluding energy, and the proportion of measurement is inexplicable. So what did Srila Prabhupada mean by both the Kali and the material energy? Why both? The material energy is already there. As Srila Prabhupada will explain that in the age of Kali, the material energy and the doubtfulness are by the influence of Kali. And they increased and intensified. It's already difficult enough at any age or any place in the material world. But in the age of Kali, it is much more difficult. Faith is so difficult in Kali Yuga. It's so hard to have faith in Kali Yuga. We can find so many reasons not to trust, so we should help people to have faith. Therefore, it is said here, the whole atmosphere in the Kali Yuga is magnified by the deluding energy, and the proportion of measurement is inexplicable. So we go back now to the point, why should one not identify the doer? And it's an important point. It's sometimes something as a devotee we must learn to practice. And if we fail, it's problematic. So please consider this point very deeply. We will take some time to go deeper into that now. After having expressed appreciation for the king, you have questioned me about the identity of he who caused me to suffer. But the bull said, but I'm unable to tell you. There are so many different philosophies, different opinions about the doer. Some philosophers claim that we ourselves are causing our difficulties, and others claims it caused by Brahman, the Lord's spiritual effulgence. Still, atheists say that there is no cause that exists, it's material nature. The causes are unknowable, and therefore please conclude with your own intelligence. Generally, upon reflecting on the cause of one's difficulty, one answers less philosophically and accuses a person or a group. But thus identifying one as the doer, impressions of retaliation may deeply enter our consciousness, and that's a problem. It makes a deep impression or justifiable doubt with their ensuing plans of retaliation, and it may implicate us in very painful exchanges. Think about that it ruins relationships, so many things. There's one reason why we should identify who has hurt us, especially great pains of the heart. Of course, we will want to get even with them, and they want to get even with us. The fight will go on practically forever. It seems people are born to give other people specific trouble, and it goes on like that, birth after birth, birth after birth. Do we want to be around to get even? So we should avoid that. By meditating on the bad qualities of another, we will develop those same qualities based on that one meditates on a verse of the 7th canto. The 7th canto, we will hear. That is, Yudhishthira Maharaj is explaining that, Narada Muni is explaining that to Yudhishthira Maharaj. Says, a grassworm confined in a hole of a wall thinks of a bee in fear and enmity, and later becomes a bee itself. So when something really disturbs us, even if it is something negative, we need to tolerate. An accurate understanding of what occurs exists on more than one level. That things are happening on more than one level. On the level of karma, on the level of Krishna's will. But we need to learn. If one is unreasonably beaten by a man with a stick, then one must defend oneself or suffer great pain. The beater may not have the best interest in mind. Dealing on this level prompts the man to immediate action and protect ourselves. Even we see it as God's grace. We must always remember Krishna's ultimate control and the ultimate doer. That consciousness is along with our actions on the practical level, bearing anxiety, anger. It will carry us to the Lord's lotus feet. All that occurs is ultimately Krishna's will. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That if we understand this, we can remain free from anxiety even amidst the greatest difficulty. Practical action and theoretical philosophical understanding must be there, and at the same time, one must act practically. In the purport of this text 23, that it says that the Lord is also not directly responsible, as he deputed control to Maya Sakti, the material energy. Most important is that we surrender to him and return to the spiritual world. But each living entity has been gifted with free will. Krishna's Maya Sakti reciprocates with us independent from Krishna's desires. And thus we are under this Maya Sakti, represented by the laws of material nature, which are also under Krishna's ultimate jurisdiction in the same way as the law punishes or remarks in terms of an unlawful or lawful act. We are put in certain circumstances by the will of Krishna. Everything that we experience in our life, the circumstances, they are just reactions from our past lives. So we are put in certain circumstances, therefore, by the will of Krishna and by the reactions of our own previous actions. Finally, everything is meant to bring us closer to Krishna. The devotee sees Krishna's merciful hand in everything. Srila Prabhupada quotes, despite Kali, if one can see Krishna's mercy in everything, one becomes eligible to the kingdom of God. Of course, Srila Prabhupada will quote in this verse, in next verse, Tatenam kampam sanasasamikshamam bunjat maivat makitam vipakam ritvakva purvir vidadam manasteji vetio muktipadesh dayabak. Srila Prabhupada spoke many times on this point. If we simply remember that Krishna has put me in this condition of life, then that is very nice, he said. A devotee is satisfied always, whatever condition Lord Krishna has given me, that is all right. It is His grace. By His grace, I got this position. My only business is to remember Krishna at any stage of life. That is from a lecture in Vrindavan 1974 on 1/5/36. So don't think that things are taking place automatically. So even in reversed conditions, the devotee does not see anything happening without the direction of Krishna. Even if he is in a reverse condition, which implies that things are going exactly the opposite as we want, he does not feel any pain. This adverse condition is also under the direction of Krishna. Why should I take this adverse position not as the mercy of Krishna? A devotee is not disturbed by adverse conditions. It sees this is a gift of Krishna. It is Krishna's mercy. So anyone who takes it in that way, Mukti Padesa Daya back, is going back to God, that is guaranteed. And if he takes everything as Krishna's mercy. From Srila Prabhupada, Vrindavan, in Vrindavan, September 11, 1976. So Krishna is always merciful. One should not take anything as not his mercy. Lord Krishna has sympathy. Tatena kampam anukampa. That Lord Krishna has sympathy, anukampa, Srila Prabhupada said. One who can see this anukampam, this compassion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, adayabhak, this is right to become liberated. It's guaranteed. This is the mercy of God in any circumstance. If anyone accepts God's mercy in any circumstance and does not do anything wrong to anyone, such a person is guaranteed to be liberated. This is the injunction of Shastra. From another lecture, Los Angeles, June 22nd, 1975. The devotee is suffering from some adverse condition. Then he's feeling very much obliged and says, "Oh my Lord, it is your great mercy that I'm suffering." This is a devotee. He's suffering and he's taking it as a great mercy. Anukampa means mercy. It's your mercy. So Maharaj breaks it. Maharaj breaks it. He's a great king and he's asserted his authority upon Kali, who just has entered his kingdom. And Kali's purpose is basically to bring down religion and to promote sinfulness and religiosity even below the highest form of religion, which is surrender to Krishna. Even religiosity has its purpose. It keeps society from going mad. It keeps the passion that conditioned souls tend to have. It keeps them challenged upwards. Passion, by following Dharma, one will surely become purified and come to goodness. So if one submits oneself to the austerity of the system, what Kali Yuga's business is to promote sinful activity and to remove all authority. The authority is bad and corrupt, so that no one should follow authority, or historically analyzed all ancient scriptures made by some man for some purpose. They declare that the creation took place not according to Shastra, but according to what scientists say. The scientists, they say a different thing. But recently, there was some professor who came up with the theory that the universe is eternal, that has continuous cycles of creations and destructions. And everyone said, oh, wonderful. And everyone will refute that and say, no, it expands and then just collapses into great singularity. All matter is pulled in this unlimited dense point. It is then sucked in this black hole. What happens when everything goes in it? Where does it come out? Different theories, but don't believe the Shastra, don't believe the holy people, don't live according to any regulation. If you will follow the past, then that will stop advancement. Do as you like, do it now. Don't protect cows, rather kill cows and feed chucked up cows to other cows. You won't have to worry about rain. Do anything, everything, dye your hair yellow, green, red, then you will be happy. Did you ever see a happy person with green hair? This is Kali whispering in everyone's ear. And if that doesn't work, try this. And this is even better. Horrible degradation. And in that way, by relinquishing the authority of religion instead of decreasing passion and ultimately bringing goodness, and rather fulfilling one's desires in these non-shastric concocted ways, makes everyone a fool, makes everyone ignorant, mad, crazy. And then by acting in further ignorance, one gets more deeply in ignorance. This is Kali Yuga, deeper and deeper and deeper ignorance. They invented more efficient way to kill. 150 years ago, it would be the it would be the armies that fight and kill. There was no bombing of cities and killing of civilians in the millions. That is very recent. A gift of Kali Yuga, bringing terror to everyone. And everyone is in fact terrorized. Terrifying diseases. Yes, we are making advancement. Don't worry. They start so many problems. Just send us oil and money. So Kali's business is to kill the cows. Low-class administrators that destroying religious principles. Now Maharaj Pariksit is speaking to the bull. The bull said, I cannot identify who has broken my legs. Text 24. In the age of Satya, truthfulness, your 4 legs were established by the 4 principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. But it appears that 3 of your legs are broken due to the rampant irreligion in the form of pride. So the qualities of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, they are the pillars of religious life. They are not exactly the perfection of religion, but religious life rests upon them, upon these. Mercifulness, compassion, truthfulness, cleanliness. Kali's business is to remove these from society and promote pride, lust, and intoxication. Austerity, cleanliness, mercifulness, and truthfulness elevates one, and the other qualities born of ignorance degrade. We will read the purport. It's 2/5 down. So by cultural standing, the human beings were not at all subjected to the deluding energy. Such strong men of character were competent enough to get away from the clutches of Maya. So there was always Maya, but a person was strongly habituated to cleanliness, mercy, austerity, and truthfulness. The deluding energy, even within Kali Yuga, will not affect him because they had character, integrity, and that is what lacking into this world. Of course, on the higher platform, character and integrity are the principles that should be there, but it is not found in society today. If someone wants to be a politician, then immediately you don't trust them. This is Kali Yuga's work, so expertly done. Low-class people of no integrity and character are placed in public office. They are ruling whimsically, only to gain money for themselves. But strong men of character were competent. One has to value something more than the temporary pleasures of this world. One has to resist the allurement of the offering of these pleasures. One has to value something beyond the temporary, beyond the senses. Otherwise, how will one resist? That is called the ability to resist. That is called character and integrity. I stick to any principles. No, I resist. I don't care what is offered. I won't accept it. A Kshatriya would even rather be killed than turn down a plea for protection. That is integrity. This is character. It means they are steady and reliable. It is not what the current leaders offer, and therefore we don't trust them. So these strong men of character were strong enough to stay away from Maya. They said no, they would not compromise their principles. We continue reading. But gradually, as the basic principles of Brahminical culture, namely austerity, cleanliness, merciful, and truthfulness, became curtailed by a proportionate development of pride, attachment for women, and intoxication, the path of salvation or the path of transcendental bliss retreated far away from human society. So now there is no standard as to what is good and what is bad, just the whim of contemporary leaders. So further, with the progression of the age of Kali, people become very proud and attached to women and intoxication. By the influence of the age of Kali, even a pauper is proud of his penny. The people are always dressed in an overly attractive fashion to victimize the minds of men, and man is addicted to drinking wine, smoking, drinking tea, and chewing tobacco, etc. So the etc. in this age, they become worse and worse. So all these habits, so-called advancement of civilization. So to start a prestigious company, to become a politician, you have to socialize, you have to drink, you can't avoid it. You are forced to do these things culturally, unless one has such firm character. All these happens, or so-called advancements of civilization, are the root causes of irreligiosities, and therefore it is not possible to check corruption, bribery, and nepotism. Srila Prabhupada wrote this in 1964, around that time. How much worse had it become now as Kali Yuga progressed? People want to keep all their vices, the gambling, the intoxication, and the meat eating. They don't want society to be clean and uncorrupt. They want full, unlimited sense gratification. They don't want everyone to be honest. The children will say to the upgrown, your principle is sense gratification, so why should it not be my principle? So man cannot check all these evils simply by statutory acts and police vigilance, but he can cure the disease of the mind by proper medicine, namely advocating the principles of Brahminical culture or the principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. So Srila Prabhupada explains, this is a secular state. This is the government's job to assure that it is the government's job to assure that everyone follows these religious principles. So we'll hear later the practical recommendations Srila Prabhupada makes for the state. But Maharaj Pariksit continues to speak. Text 25. You are now standing on one leg only, which is your truthfulness. And you are somehow or rather hobbling along, but quarrel personified Kali, flourishing by the seed, is also to destroy that leg. So that is what keeps Kali Yuga at bay, because when Kali breaks the final leg, then everything falls. And Kali works hard to break that. Therefore, devotees should carry out all four principles of religion, especially this truthfulness. Why? Because if we don't act truthfully, especially among ourselves, but not only among ourselves, we won't trust each other. And then if we can't trust the devotees, where shall we go? Because association is everything. Srila Prabhupada said, if we don't make friendship with devotees, then we will be forced, because we are social by nature, to make friendship with non-devotees. Then we will not able to follow the principles. How important it is that the dealings among devotees are sweet, very sweet. Prabhupada also said about himself that he had chastised the Mayavadi speakers in front of so many people. But when he was back in Japan in his room, he was so gentle. Srila Prabhupada said that when I'm out, I'm like a lion. When I'm at home, I'm like a lamb. It is hard to do. We tend to be lambs or lions whenever we go. And when we are out preaching, we need to be strong like lions. With the devotees at home, we need to be very gentle like lambs. So Kali will beat his leg of truthfulness, but beat it until it breaks. That is the mission of Kali. Then Kali will run rampant completely. We will read a few points of Srila Prabhupada's purport here. Text 25. The principles of religion do not stand on some dogmas or man-made formulas. They stand on four primarily regulative observances, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. So one time a reporter asked, why we shave our heads? Srila Prabhupada replied, because it's clean. And cleanliness is next to godliness. Cleanliness keeps one in a mode of goodness. Clean outside bathing and clean inside by chanting Krishna's names constantly. If we feel that we lack shelter or that we want shelter, then take up this practice, constantly chanting Krishna's names. Prabhupada continues later in the purport that we have to see things by their resultant action. So in contemporary civilization, everyone is convinced that they are advancement. But look practically at the result. Are people more wealthy? No one has independent intelligence. Nowadays, we are completely victimized by the propaganda, the newspapers' propaganda, the radio, the movies, and this or that. Actually, we are completely brainwashed by it. What standard do you use for measuring advancement? When you say that your measurement is computers and technology, and yes, in that field, society is advancing, but are people happier? Are they more peaceful? Are they less in anxiety? Previously, the husband would work and the wife would be at home. Freedom for women made them also work 8 hours a day. How wonderful, what an advancement. Now, 2 people are working and everyone is in debt. The children tend to go to the day care center. This is in the West. Husband and wife both have careers and they are still in debt and terrified for criminals, always hiding their money for the taxation department, afraid for this disease, that disease, afraid of the partner being unchaste, divorced. Kids go to school, and when one kid shoot everyone else, it's crazy, completely insane. And yet everyone says, yes, we are making advancement. That now we have computers and go on the world, we go on the World Wide Web and download everything at any stage. Advancement. That the resultant action of human civilization in the age of Kali is dissatisfaction. So everyone is anxious to get peace of mind. This peace of mind was complete in Satya Yuga, in the Satya age, because of the existence of the above mentioned attributes of the human beings. So everyone complains. There is no peace. Whether they are unsuccessful or successful, if you say to people to be peaceful, you need to practice austerity, mercifulness, cleanliness, and truthfulness. Who will accept that? But to speak of just chanting Hare Krishna and clean your heart, because that gets in the way of what they consider the purpose of life, enjoyment of life, they think. Yes. So the purport, surely these attributes have diminished in Tetra Yuga to 3/4, in Dvapara to half, and in this age of Kali to 1/4, which is also hardly diminishing on account of prevailing untruthfulness. By pride, either artificial or real, the resultant action of austerity is spoiled. By too much affection for female association, cleanliness is spoiled. By too much addiction to intoxication, mercy is spoiled. And by too much lying propaganda, truthfulness is spoiled. The revival of Bhagavad Dharma can save human civilization from falling prey to evils of all description. So what does Bhagavad Dharma mean? It means Krishna consciousness, following Srimad Bhagavatam, following Varnashram Dharma, Bhakti Yoga, action to please Krishna, putting Krishna in the center, no more me in the center, Sarva Sarvadam Prityaga. That is Bhagavad Dharma. Because our more how can anyone have character and integrity? All they value is of this world. It is just a matter of finding out for what price they will sell their soul for. Only if one values Krishna deeply enough above everything in the material world can one actually be a man of character. If one has affection for the material world, one cannot. Text 26. The burden of the earth was certainly diminished by the personality of God and by others as well. When he was present as an incarnation, all good was performed because of his auspicious footprints. Now she, the chaste being, unfortunately forsaken by the personality of God, laments her future with tears in her eyes, for now she is being ruled and enjoyed by lower class men who pose as rulers about the earth. So up near the last line of this purport, so Prabhupada writes, and in the absence of a suitable king to curb irreligious tendencies, educating the people systematically in the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam will clear up the hazy atmosphere of corruption, bribery, blackmail, etc. So that is something what ISKCON, the devotees, can actually do. That we may think that what can I do to change society and to change all this sinfulness? Maybe I should blow up slaughterhouses and assassinate leaders. No. We should not do this kind of things. But it is something we can actually do. Actually, it is our duty to do this, to educate people in the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam. Systematically, what does systematically mean? Step by step following in all spheres, in all parts of society, unless one is convinced of a better life. One should be deeply convinced, because otherwise can one resist and endure a life of renunciation. One must be convinced of a better life that comes due to renunciation, and then Maharaj Parikshit turns to Kali in a very dramatic way now. He will be pulling out his sword. Text 28. Maharaj Parikshit, who could fight 1,000 enemies, single-handedly thus pacified the personality of religion and the earth. Then he took up his sharp sword to kill the personality of Kali, who is the cause of all irreligion. So, that's the first sentence of the purport. As described above, the personality of Kali is he who deliberately commits all sinful acts which are forbidden in the revealed scripture. If we hear that first line of the purport, then we can say, how many personalities of Kali are there? About 6-7 billion? Yes, everyone is carrying this Kali energy today. This age of Kali will certainly be full of activities be full of all activities of Kali. But this does not mean that the leaders of society, the executive heads, the learned and intelligent men, or above all the devotees of the Lord, should sit down tightly and become callous to the reactions of the age of Kali. In the rainy season, certainly there will be profuse rainfalls, but that does not mean man should not take means to protect themselves from the rains. It is the duty of the executive head of state and others to take necessary actions against the activities of Kali or the persons influenced by the age of Kali. And Maharaj Pariksit is the ideal executive of head. At once, he was ready to kill the personality of Kali with his sharp sword. So many people don't care. They just want to make money. They don't care what the results of their activities will be. They sell drugs that will kill people. They sell it in the schools. They advertise smoking. They are targeting children for these things. They are adding chemicals to the cigarettes to addict them further. They are targeting children as they think they have them for their entire life. People who send out others with addictive drugs to sell in the streets. What conscience does these people have? They are demons. Maharaj Pariksit knows how to deal with them, and it is not that you need to feel sorry because they are culturally deprived or they had a difficult time upbringing. Our society has wronged them, and therefore they should be excused and dealt liberally and given another chance and another chance. No, off with their head. But we should not do that. We should teach them Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the innocent people will be protected. If they see that they become afraid and they say, I don't want this to happen to me. Srila Prabhupada explains that Maharaj Pariksit is the ideal executive head of state. Once he was ready to kill the personality of Godhead with his sword. Yeah. So the end of the purport. The administrators cannot prevent corrupt activities and allowing wine shops. They must at once close all shops of intoxicating drugs and force punishment, even by death, for those who indulge in habits of intoxication of all description. That is the way of stopping activities of Kali, as exhibited herein by Maharaj Pariksit, the Maharaj. Now we will go on reading a few verses. When the personality of Kali understood that the king was willing to kill him, he at once abandoned the dress of a king and under pressure of fear completely surrendered to him, bowing his head. Maharaj Pariksit, who was qualified to accept surrender and worthy of being sung in history, did not kill the poor surrendered and fallen Kali, but smiled compassionately, for he was kind to the poor. So when Maharaj Pariksit wanted to kill someone, no one was safe. No grown-up person was safe, but as soon as he surrendered, Maharaj Pariksit refused to kill him. 31. Thus the king said, we have inherited the fame of Arjuna, and therefore you have surrendered yourself with folded hands. You need not to fear for your life, but you cannot remain in my kingdom, for you are the friend of irreligion. If the personality of Kali, irreligion, is allowed to act as man, god, or executive head, so the irreligious principles like greed, falsehood, robbery, incivility, treachery, misfortune, cheating, quarrel, and vanity will abound. Therefore, friend of irreligion, you do not desire to remain in a place where experts perform sacrifice according to truth and religious principles for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In all sacrificial ceremonies, although sometimes a demigod is worshipped, the Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is worshipped because he is the super soul of everyone and exists both inside and outside, like the air. Thus, it is he only who awards all welfare to the worshipper. So, you said you surrendered, but you cannot remain in my kingdom. You cannot act in an irreligious way in my domain, because I will be there with my sword. Break those, you will be killed. And that means that this means Kali will need to desist from acting in that way in Maharaj's Brexit kingdom. We'll go back to the purport of 31. So there, 31. Try to find out where to start. Sorry, I'm at the wrong page. The personality of Kali, who is a friend of all kinds of irreligiosities, may be excused if he surrenders, but in all circumstances, he cannot be allowed to live as a citizen in any part of a welfare state. The Pandavas were entrusted representatives of the personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna was practically brought into being the battle of Kurukshetra, but not for any personal interest. He wanted an ideal king like Maharaj Yudhishthira and his descendants, like Maharaj Parikshit, rule the world. So in the beginning of the next purport, 32, the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, as we have already discussed, may be followed by the follower of any faith. That there is no need to turn from Hindu to Mohammedan to Christian or some other faith and thus become renegade and not follow the principles of religion. The Bhagavatam religion urges to follow the principles of religion. So the real principles of religion. What's the real principles of religion? Prema Makta Pumam. On a lower level, it is this. On a higher level, it's developing love for Krishna. On a lower level, it is following austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. And they must follow that in all religions. Whatever religion one follows, without at least follow these principles, it's just hypocrisy. Prabhupada is stressing that. To the Christians, immediately would say, why are you not following your Bible? Thou shalt not kill. Why are you being merciless of your poor animals? You are compassionate to humans, but not to animals. Don't you hear them crying? One time, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj and someone on the other side of the street was carrying a fish, and Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Maharaj said, you are so heartless. Where is your mercy? Where is your mercifulness? They say, I like the taste. But what if someone likes the taste of your body? How would you like if they eat your body? And people, when they see you, they immediately want to kill and eat you. Imagine. That is what I mean, but what it means to be an animal in Kali Yuga. Where is mercifulness? Whatever religion you follow, whatever religion, one need to follow these principles. And this is the communality, truthfulness, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness. And the absence of these is simply demoniac. From the purport of text 33, there are different countries in different parts of the world, and the basic principle of religion is truthfulness. The basic principle of Kali is lying. If you do this, then you will be happy. If you do that, enjoy that, you will be happy. It's all lies. It's the basic principle of Kali, it's falsehood. That there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Tamara Amara Akhyaya Guru Hai Taradesh. Everyone become Guru, and everyone with your family, with your friends, or throughout the world. It doesn't make much difference. Become a Guru and deliver the people by distributing the holy name and the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. It is only Krishna who is worshipped in all sacrifices. That text 34. If all sacrificial ceremonies, although sometimes a demigod is worshipped, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped because he is the super soul of everyone and exists both inside and outside, like the air. And it is he only who awards all welfare to the worshipper. So then Kali ordered while Maharaj Parikshit. He saw the king before him with his sword, and he was trembling. He spoke to the king as follows: "You can better kill me now, because wherever I go in your kingdom, you will be there. You say you will spare me, but I have no place to live. You will always be there with your sword to kill me. You will be there with your bow and anxious and arrows wherever I look." Text 35 and 36. Sri Goswami said the personality of Kali, thus being ordered by Maharaj Parikshit, began to tremble in fear. Seeing the king before him like Yamaraj ready to kill him, Kali spoke as follows: "O your Majesty, though I may live anywhere and everywhere under your order, I shall but see you with bow and arrows wherever I look. That therefore, chief amongst the protectors of religion, please fix some place for me where I can live permanently under the protection of your government." Sri Goswami said Maharaj Parikshit, thus being petitioned by the personality of Godhead, gave him permission to reside in places where gambling, drinking, prostitution, and animal slaughter were performed. So in this purport, 38, so the basic principles of religion, such as pride, prostitution, intoxication, and falsehood, counteract the four principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. The personality of Kali was given permission to live in four places particularly mentioned by the king, namely the place of gambling, the place of prostitution, the place of drinking, and the place of animal slaughter. So now we will read what Srila Prabhupada's instructions to a state are. It's 1/3 in the purport. So, following in the footsteps of Maharaj Parikshit, it is the duty of all executive heads to see that the principles of religion, namely austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, are established in the state, and that the principles of religion, namely pride, illicit female association or prostitution, intoxication, and falsity, are checked by all men. And to make the best use of a bad bargain, the personality of Kali may be transferred to places of gambling, drinking, prostitutions, and slaughterhouses. If there are any places like that, those who are addicted to irreligious habits may be regulated by the injunctions of the scripture. In no circumstance should they encourage any state. In other words, the state should categorically stop all sorts of gambling, drinking, prostitution, and falsity. The state which wants to eradicate corruption by majority may introduce the principles of religion in the following matter. And Srila Prabhupada proposes 3 points. First, 2 compulsory fasting days in a month, he says. That will save tons of food and it will be good for the health of the people. 2, there must be compulsory marriage. 3, citizens in the state must citizens in the state must give charity up to 50% of the income, etc. So, and then at the end, gambling of all description, even speculative business enterprise, is considered to be degrading. And when gambling is encouraged in the state, there is complete disappearance of truthfulness, allowing young boys and girls to remain unmarried more than the above-mentioned age of licensing animal slaughterhouses of all descriptions should be at once prohibited. The flesh eater may be allowed to take flesh as mentioned in the scriptures and not otherwise. Intoxication of all description, even smoking cigarettes, chewing tobacco, or drinking of tea must be prohibited. Text 39. So this point is now very important for devotees. Be careful of accumulation of too much wealth and what to do about that. Text 39. The personality of Kali asked for something more, and because of his begging, the king gave him permission to live where there is gold, because wherever there is gold, there is also falsity, intoxication, lust, and envy. Purport. Although Maharaj Pariksit gave permission to live in 4 places, it was very difficult for him to find the places during the reign of Maharaj Pariksit, because there were no such places. Therefore, Kali asked the king to give something practical, which would be utilized. But yes, it's where there is gold, falsity. There is also falsity, intoxication, lust, envy, and enmity. So we should be careful to accumulate too much. Balav Srila Prabhupada at the end of the purpose said, this will discourage lust, envy, and enmity. When there is actually gold currency in the form of coins, the influence of gold is producing falsity, prostitution, etc. will automatically cease. There will be no need of anti-corruption ministry for any other term of prostitution and falsity of purpose. It speaks about the bad money in the purport. That's why he mentions that at the end, that there is no gold standard currency anymore. That it's just some papers of some, they create today money digitally. But what to do about this? Text 41. The personality of Kali, by the direction of Maharaj Pariksit, the son of Uttara, was allowed to live in 5 places. Therefore, whoever desires progressive well-being, especially kings, religionists, public people, leaders, brahmanas, and sannyasis, should never come in contact with the 4 above mentioned irreligious principles. So the Brahmins, so Srila Prabhupada writes in the Prabhupada, if a Brahmana is not truthful, all his claims as a Brahmin at once become null and void. If a sannyasi is illicitly connected with women, all his claims to be a sannyasi become false. So once there was a political party started by the devotees in America. It happened also in Australia, but Srila Prabhupada stopped it. If the devotee in Australia went into politics and said that he would close the bars in the parliament, and he actually got some votes. How can you vote for a person who drinks while he's passing laws? You want someone who is sober, not intoxicated. Yes. So truthfulness is the basic principle, Srila Prabhupada said, for all religions. The 4 leaders of human society, namely the sannyasis, the brahmins, the king, the public leader, must be tested crucially by their character and qualification before one can be accepted as spiritual or master of society, it must be tested by the above criteria of character. But what to do about this gold problem? Gold causes enmity and envy. What to do about that? Text 42 is explained. Therefore, after the king re-established the lost legs of the personality of religion, and by encouraging activities, he sufficiently improved the condition of the earth. So in the purport that text 42, well, on this text 42, there is a comment from Shiva Goswami. He says he confirms that Kali resides anywhere where gold is not used for religious purposes. He also comments on a text 42 that Maharaj Pariksit dispelled Kali by allowing gold to be used for religious purposes. Kali was given that as well as places of gambling, prostitution, intoxication, etc. Practically, there was no place for gambling, prostitution, and intoxication. It gave him the places of gold, but how did he stop Kali there? He assured that gold was always used for religious purposes. So Kali was cheated again. So he cheated Kali by using all gold in the service of the Lord. Text 43, 44. The most fortunate Emperor Maharaj Pariksit, who was entrusted with the kingdom of Hastinapur by Maharaj Yudhishthira, when he desired to retire to the forest, is now ruling the world with great success. Duty is being glorified by the deeds of the kings of the Kuru dynasty. So this is Sutta Goswami again speaking to the sages of Namisaranya. The speaking of the Bhagavatam took place after Maharaj Pariksit renounced the world, but here he is ruling the world. When Sukadev Goswami was speaking Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Pariksit, Sutta Goswami was present. He was physically there when Sutta Goswami was speaking, the sages of Namisaranya. Sukadev Goswami, yeah. Maharaj Pariksit already left the world at that time. So when Sukadev Goswami was speaking, Maharaj Pariksit was there. Of course, he spoke to Maharaj Pariksit, and Sutta Goswami was with him. Sutta Goswami was hearing, and now he's repeating after Maharaj Pariksit already left this world. So Srila Prabhupada stresses the same points again. It's hard to preach when the principles of Kali have become the standard. Children born today are immediately so corrupted by television, internet, movies, music, and everything. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada makes the point how to administer the state. So we will read the last verse. Maharaj Pariksit, the son of Abhimanyu, is so experienced that by dint of his expert administration and patronage, it has been possible for you to perform a sacrifice such as this. So we see in the purport in the middle, Maharaj Pariksit was experienced enough to drive away Kali from his field of activities and therefore make the state receptive to spiritual enlightenment. If people are not receptive, it's very difficult to impress upon them the necessity of spiritual enlightenment. Austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness, the basic principles of religion, prepare the ground for the reception of advancement in spiritual knowledge. And Maharaj Pariksit make this favorable condition possible. So that is the end, chapter 17. So we will now have a pause for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. And I will put a question on the screen. It's there. Explain the connection between Brahminical culture and keeping out the influence of Kali. You can write 1 or 2 sentences. So we will now pause. I think it's 10:05 in India. Then 10:15 we resume for another 15 minutes, hearing the answers and answering questions. So thank you. See you in 15 minutes. So Hare Krishna, here we are.
Dando Pranam Maharaj, Upananda Keshav Das. Can you hear me, Maharaj?
I hear you clearly, yes.
Hello, can you hear me, Maharaj?
I'm here.
Okay. Actually, Brahmanical culture means, Brahmanical culture means apart from obeying the regulatory principles, we must protect our cows. We must worship the Brahmanas also and obey their instructions. So, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha. We have one sloka. So, if we do this meticulously, the Koli cannot touch us. Koli means Maya. So, if we worship the Brahman and protect the cows, Lord Krishna will be happy. And if Krishna is happy, what can Koli do us? The Maya cannot touch us at all. Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah, I think one point you said that, yes, if you worship the cow and follow the Brahmins, then yes, Maya cannot touch us. But of course, it protects us against Kali. That's true. That is true. But it may not protect us against Maya. Maya is more subtle. Kali means sinful activities. But there are also pious activities that are Maya. So that is some point to be attentive to. That we are speaking about the protection against Kali. Maya is a little broader here. Thank you, Upananda Keshav Prabhu, for your comment.
I'll improve.
Thank you.
Okay,
so,
I'll improve, sir. Okay.
There is a question here that I want to answer in the chat. This is from Shyama Priya. She said, what are the different ways envy manifests in the heart or in actions of a practicing devotee? And in what practical ways can one overcome it? So that is a very nice introspective question. That envy manifests in different ways. It can manifest in very gross ways or subtle ways. If we make advancement in Krishna consciousness, then gradually we will come to that point that the envy becomes more subtle and more difficult to conquer. Gross envy, like the materialists, they want to eat meat. They want the meat of the animal. Envy means you have something that I don't have. And I feel sorry for that. I want to have that also. And that's caused by lust, of course. Lust is the cause of envy. Lust causes anger, causes greed, and finally envy. But why are we here in this material world? Because we are envious of Krishna. We want to be the controller. And we think ourselves the controller in so many ways. And we think what we are see, that we create our own reality. Our own reality. Therefore, in this point, it's made in this chapter. If you try to find the perpetrator, then you are as sinful as the perpetrator, perpetrator itself, and you go to the same place. So we may find faults in devotees, but we will be condemned for the same faults, and we will cultivate these faults when we see it in others. But that's all due to envy, thinking ourselves the controller. We understand what's going on. But here we hear in this chapter, no, we don't understand what's going on. We cannot understand, it's too complicated. Krishna does so many things at the same time. That's giving reactions, giving the opportunity to others to make offenses because they want it. And it has remote causes and remote causes. But Krishna is his plan. We cannot understand it. We just get our reactions because of our envy. Envy means the ultimate envy is we want to be Krishna, the controller. And one way because your question is, what practical ways can be done to overcome it? It's a heart disease. It is a heart disease which is there since millions of births. We have this heart disease. It's not just easy to overcome, but it can be overcome very effectively by hearing this knowledge, by hearing this Bhagavatam, understanding what's going on really. And that knowledge will purify us. And by that knowledge, we will become free from attachment, fear, and anger. That process is explained in Bhagavad Gita 4.10. Vitaraya Bhayakota Manmaya Mamo Pashita Bhauvogana Tapasa Putamat Bhavam Agata. Many people in the past have become free from attachment, fear, and anger. And they became purified by knowledge of me, Krishna says, by transcendental knowledge. Knowledge of Krishna, and how Krishna controls everything. And by that knowledge, they became purified. When they became purified, they developed love of God. So that is the point. Getting that realized knowledge. And that we get from the Bhagavatam. So, Mother Shyama Priya, does that help? There's much more to say about that. It's a very important point to bring up.
Yes, thank you so much for explaining.
Hare Krishna. So we will hear some of the answers. Brahminical culture means serving Lord Krishna. So no influence of Kali. Because Brahminical culture brings us to goodness, yes. And Brahminical culture means, and we heard today, the basic Brahminical activities is following the four religious principles, the four principles of religion. Question: we find that all the four aspects of Dharma are hardly practiced in the society. how do we understand that truthfulness is still prevalent in our society today, especially in comparison with the three other aspects? Yeah, there is some truthfulness, and people have still some idea, but it's dwindling very, very quickly. That this truthfulness, truthfulness, yes, we still we may have some money of the bank, and we understand, yes, this is truth. I can take it from the bank and use it. That so there is still some honesty. If it would disappear, then there would be no honesty. So some honesty is still there, but it's dwindling very, very quickly. But what's real truthfulness? Truthfulness is understanding who we are. We are a spirit soul, not this body. That's real truthfulness. And it's still there in society. It's in the Bhagavad Gita and so on. It's not so prevalent. Most people don't have that truth. But we get in contact with the truth here to understand that we are not this body. Yes, but truthfulness will dwindle very, very quickly. And we see the last 50 years. I remember when I lived in the 60s, it's different than today. We made a lot of progress in Kali Yuga the last 50 years. Truthfulness. That even now they have same-sex marriages. Yes. But then anyway, there is a truthfulness. It's true. It becomes more and more difficult to find in the society. Shamapriya writes, Kali thrives on principles of irreligiosity, of illicit sex, animal slaughter, intoxication and gambling. By following Brahminical culture means practicing Krishna consciousness by following four relative principles, which is based on the principles of austerity, cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. We can keep out the influence of Kali. That's true, but Brahminical culture goes deeper than just following these four relative principles, than following these principles of religion. It's really the lower basis. Then there is a varnashram, doing your duty to please Haritoshnam, to please the Supreme Lord. That's doing your activities to please Krishna. And that is higher. That's the path of developing love of Godhead. So this is really the basic principles of religion. And Srila Prabhupada says we should follow that in every religion should follow that. Otherwise, it's not truthful. So I see Sita Thakurani, Mother Sita Thakurani, please speak, you want to ask a question.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, my voice is coming, Maharaj?
It's clear. I'm hearing you clear. Yes.
Okay. Actually, I just want to know that when you are explaining text number 23 about the karma and the Krishna, who is the response, intermixing your word used there. And one question you have read, why should not identify the doers?
Yeah. And
then I missed that point. Can you please explain?
That is a very important point. That's what we have explained. We are not able to identify the doer. The reason is who is the real doer? It's ourselves. But by our actions in our previous life, we get a reaction in this life. So we are the cause. But externally, who is doing, we cannot identify. Because I said, someone is beating you with a stick. Who is doing? Is it the stick? Is it the person who holds the stick? Is it the mother of the person who caused, who gave him a bad education? Who gave him a bad education? And he got a trauma? Or did the mother give a bad education because she was abused by her husband? So there are so many causes. Who is the cause? We should, in our spiritual life, we should see that tenen kan pamsa samikshna mobun shatma ivatma kitamri param ritvarfa proberen vidadana master. We should understand that this is my own fault. The fault lies in me and I deserve it. It's Krishna's mercy. Thank you. Thank you, Krishna. I deserve much worse. Unless we develop this quality, we are not going back to Godhead. It's like someone in the prison. Someone in the prison, he has done a crime. He has done a crime, and then he gets a punishment. And he says, no, I don't want the punishment. But he deserves it. We deserve it. Unless, that's the difference. We will learn that also in later cantos. That when the four Kumaras go to Vaikuntha, and they curse giant Vijay, Lord Narayan comes to the gate and says, yes, the fault lies in me. I take responsible for the misbehavior of my servants. Lord Narayan says the fault lies in me. Everyone in this world says the fault lies in the other, not in me. I'm a good person, but it's this one, he did that to me, and I will retaliate. And that keeps us in the prison. The person who brings you the reaction is only an instrument of the Supreme Lord. He brings you the reaction. So that is important for us, that to remain undisturbed and not see in the fault in the person who brings you the reaction. At the same time, it is said we have to be practical. If someone attacks you physically, you have to defend yourself. But internally, we should not find the faults in the others. It's very, very important for our spiritual life. If we don't understand that principle and we fail, and then you feel this person has done that to me, and your mind constantly is fixated on it the whole day, and then you want to retaliate. I will get this person for what he has done to me, and there you go again. It's madness. If you identify the perpetrator, you start thinking of retaliation. It's your end of your spiritual life. Because you cannot fix your mind on anything anymore. So disturbed. And I'm saying this, but I know it's a hard lesson to learn. But we must learn it. We must learn. And sometimes we will fail. But what's the remedy? Hearing these instructions again and again and again, we need to hear it. Sita Thakurani, does that help you to understand this?
Yes, Paraj. I think you are saying that we have to take 100% responsibility.
That's the vote.
That our karma is there for the reason. So that's why we can improve it and not indulging so many here and there.
Yes,
think that-
a devotee means integrity. He's responsible. He
Yeah.
knows us because of my past karma. And it's Krishna's mercy to be corrected. And this is the way that Krishna corrects us. That, and it's difficult to accept, especially when we are still full of envy and so on. But if we feel we are in this situation, it's not hopeless. We can come out of it. It takes a while. But it's not hopeless. And when you give up your attachment to all these things, to honor and dishonor, you become the same and so on. You become a peaceful person and happy. And that's what we all want. Good. We are over time. Yes?
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Thank you.
More clear to me.
Yeah. So we will end here. Our time is over. And tomorrow and the day after, we will have the last 2 chapters, which is, we are going towards the beginning of the speaking of the Bhagavatam. So I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow again online. Please read the next chapter. It's good to read it ahead. And I'm looking forward. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Right side. Hare Krishna.